The skies above planet Ziara burned with a bright red glow as a single human dropship broke through the upper atmosphere. Its metal shell shook under the strong winds, flames dancing along its sides. Inside the small cockpit, Captain Reed sat calmly. His helmet visor displayed the fast-approaching city below, marked with green targeting lines and glowing data points. Planet Ziara was known as the jewel of the Ziaran Empire. Its surface was covered in shining marble cities, tall crystal towers, and giant statues of the ruling elites. The Zarans were a proud and powerful race with green-scaled skin and golden eyes. For centuries, they had ruled their part of the galaxy without fear, enslaving weaker races and taking their resources. Today, however, something new had arrived. In the grand palace of Zara's capital, nobles and military leaders gathered around. A large screen, sipping blue fruit wine as they watched the human dropship land in their central plaza. Their marble hall was filled with laughter and confident smiles. "Is this a joke?" asked Lord Yelker, a noble with long golden robes covering his scaled shoulders. "They send only one human to face our empire. Perhaps it is their surrender." "Messenger," replied Lady Krenna, her eyes glowing with amusement. High Warden Relker, leader of Zira's planetary forces, stood at the front of the hall with his arms crossed behind his back. He was taller than other Zirans, with black markings running down his face and neck. His eyes were cold as he studied the screen showing the lone human stepping out of his ship. Captain Reed's black and gray X-armor absorbed the strong sunlight as he walked calmly onto the white marble ground. He carried no large weapons on. His back only a small pulse rifle attached to his hip and a wrist console glowing blue. His steps were silent and confident. Above him, large screens displayed his image to the entire city, so every citizen and soldier could see the human clearly. "He has no fear," one young Zaran officer whispered in confusion. "He has no brain," another said, laughing loudly. "Look at him. He is alone. Our mechs will crush him in seconds." High Warden Relker raised his hand, and the room fell silent. He spoke into his communication device, his deep voice echoing across every street and tower. "Turn back, human. Your presence is amusing, but your death will be instant." Reed stood still. His helmet turned slightly as if listening to Relkor's warning, but he did not reply. Instead, he reached to his belt and pulled out a small metal capsule. With a flick of his wrist, he tossed it into the air, burst open silently, releasing hundreds of small silver microdrones. They spread out in all directions, flying low across the streets, scanning every building, vehicle, and defensive position within seconds. In the palace's control room, Ziran technicians laughed as their screens detected the drones. "Primitive human toys," said Chief Engineer Relna, pressing a disruptor button. From tall defense towers around the city, blue beams shot out, striking the drones one by one. Sparks and metal shards fell from the sky like silver rain. Reed did not move. He only observed the fast data feed on his visor. Even as drones were destroyed, he had already mapped out the entire city layout, including shield generators, mech storage areas, command towers, and hidden tunnels. Green lines and symbols blinked across his display, creating a perfect plan. For what he had to do next, he took a deep breath inside his helmet. His heart beat calmly, trained for such moments. He remembered his mission briefing. "Flashback, Captain Reed," said Admiral Vance, standing tall in front of the human war table back on Earth's orbital command station. "Ziara is the heart of their empire. If we attack directly, their planetary shields will block us for weeks, giving their fleets time to gather. Your task is simple." Reed stood straight, listening carefully. "You will go alone. You will infiltrate the capital. You'll disable their planetary shields so our fleet can arrive and end their threat forever." "Understood, Admiral," Reed said without hesitation. Back in the present, Reed's visor displayed a blinking message. "Target, shield generator towers. Priority, immediate." In the palace, High Warden Relker narrowed his golden eyes. He noticed that the human showed no fear or confusion despite the loss of his drones. Relker leaned closer to the screen and growled softly. "Why does he stand so calm? What is he planning?" Inside, Reed pulled a small metal rod from his belt and pressed a button. It extended into a thin staff with a glowing blue tip. He began walking towards the western shield tower, ignoring the loud laughter and mocking shouts coming from the palace speakers. "Look at him," Lord Yelker said, shaking his head. "He walks like he owns our city. What a fool." Reed was no fool. Each step he took was calculated. Each movement was focused. Civilians hiding behind crystal pillars watched him with wide eyes. Many had never seen a human before. Some felt pity, thinking he was about to die in vain. Others felt fear, sensing something different in his calm energy. As he reached the first shield tower, he placed his hand on its cold metal surface. His wrist console lit up and codes began to flash across his visor. He was searching for access points, scanning for weaknesses in their system. The shield tower hummed softly, vibrating under his touch. From the palace, High Warden Relker ordered, "Activate Mech Squadron Alpha. End this human now." On the plaza streets, heavy footsteps shook the ground. Giant Xeron battlemechs, each, with glowing red eyes and long plasma cannons, marched out from their storage hangars. They moved into attack position, surrounding the lone human from all directions. Still, Reed did not look back. His focus remained on the tower's access panel. His breathing was steady. His visor blinked with a final message. System breach possible. Awaiting EMP deployment. Above him, the mechs raised their cannons ready to fire. Zarin soldiers watched from windows and balconies, excitement building in their chests. The human was about to be destroyed. They could almost taste victory already, but Captain Reed gently smiled behind his helmet, because he knew this was only the beginning. Captain Reed stood still in the silent streets of Ziera's capital. Tall crystal towers surrounded him, reflecting the orange glow of the twin suns. Above him, massive screens displayed his image to the entire city. Zarin elites watched from their high marble halls, sipping their sweet blue drinks as they laughed. "Is this human serious?" one noble asked, almost spilling his drink from laughter. "He is alone," another replied, shaking his head. "They sent a single human to conquer us. Truly pathetic." High Warden Relker stood at the highest balcony, arms crossed behind his back. His green scales glittered under the light as he leaned forward to observe the small figure below. His eyes were narrow and cold. "Turn back," human Relkor's voice echoed from the city speakers. "Your presence is amusing, but your death will be instant." Reed did not respond. He simply placed his gloved hand on his belt, tapping a small device. Within seconds, hundreds of tiny metallic spheres flew out, spreading in all directions like insects. They were microdrones, scanning every street, tower, and hidden passage with silent precision. In the control hall, Zarin's soldiers laughed again as they detected the drones on their scanners. "Primitive human toys," one said, pressing the disruptor trigger. Bright blue beams shot into the sky, and dozens of drones exploded like sparks. But Reed remained calm, behind his helmet. His eyes read the fast data feed. He had already mapped the city's entire defense grid before they shot down his drones. His visor displayed the schematics in green lines across his view. Pressed another button on his wrist console. A small compartment on his thigh opened, revealing a metallic sphere with a glowing blue core. It was an electromagnetic pulse grenade. From the balcony above, Relker narrowed his eyes. "What is that?" Reed pulled the pin and rolled the grenade towards the nearest mech squadron guarding the plaza. The sphere hummed and flashed bright blue before a silent wave spread across the area. Instantly, the massive mech suits, each the size of a building, froze in place. Their eyes dimmed and mechanical limbs locked as sparks flew out from their joints. The entire plaza fell silent. The ground trembled slightly as the mechs collapsed one by one, their heavy metal bodies shaking the marble roads. The laughter in the control hall stopped. Soldiers stared at the black screens in disbelief. High Warden Relkor's eyes widened, his scaled hands gripping the balcony rail tightly. He disabled them. "All of them," whispered an officer. Below, Reed continued walking forward. His boots made a quiet echo across the empty street. Alarm sirens began to blare across the city, red lights flashing everywhere. Automated voice systems announced, "Warning, Central Defense mechs disabled." Sector shields remain active. All units prepare for breach. Reed ignored the warnings. His visor showed a new message. Phase 1 complete. Proceeding to Phase 2, he walked towards the nearest energy shield tower. Tall and shining with pale light, it guarded the city's outer barriers. He reached its base and pulled out a small metal rod. With swift movements, he attached it to the control panel, overriding its security. Streams of alien code flashed across his screen before turning green. Above him, the shield flickered for a moment. Ask ChatGPT. Captain Reed stood calmly as the giant Zarin mechs surrounded him. Their heavy metal feet cracked the marble ground. Their plasma cannons hummed with deadly energy, glowing bright red as they prepared to fire. Inside his helmet, Reed's eyes moved quickly, scanning his visor display. His suit showed him every mech's position, their weapon power levels, and the tower's shield frequencies. He took a deep breath, feeling the cold, filtered air fill his lungs. His heart beat steady and strong. Suddenly, his mind went back to his final mission briefing on Earth. The memory was clear as day. Flashback inside the Human Fleet Command Center. Admiral Vance stood before a large holographic map of Ziara. Generals and officers surrounded him. Captain Reed stood at attention, his helmet under his arm. Zara's planetary shields protect them from any orbital attack, Admiral Vance said, his voice deep and confident. We cannot send our fleet until those shields are down. Are our only hope? Reed? He zoomed into the city map, showing the 4 shield towers connected to the main energy core underground. You will go alone. We cannot risk a fleet alerting them. You will infiltrate, disable their towers, and send us the signal to warp in. Do you understand the risk? I do, sir, Reed replied calmly. Admiral Vance placed a hand on his shoulder. You are not just a soldier today. You are humanity's sword. Captain Reed stood still as the giant Zarin mechs pointed their plasma cannons at him. The city plaza was silent, except for the hum of the weapons. Civilians watched from windows and balconies. Many believed the human would die within seconds. Warden Relker watched the scene on his Grand Palace screen. He sat tall on his throne, his golden eyes glowing with cold pride. Around him, generals and nobles waited for the final moment when the human would be destroyed. End this, Relker ordered calmly. The mech leader charged its plasma cannon fully, aiming at Reed's chest. But just as it was about to fire, Reed pressed a small button on his wrist console. In one quick motion, he threw a small black device onto the marble ground. It landed with a metallic clink. Then, it exploded with a silent flash of blue light. A powerful electromagnetic pulse, EMP, spread out in all directions. Sparks flew from the mechs as their systems shut down instantly. Their glowing red eyes went dark. Their plasma cannons powered off. Within seconds, the entire mech squadron stood frozen like lifeless statues. The civilians gasped. The nobles in the palace halls stood up in shock. High Warden Relkor's eyes widened, his claws tightening around his throne's armrest. What? What did he do? General Zelcha whispered. Reed moved fast. He ran towards the western shield tower and placed his hand on its control panel. His wrist console connected with the tower's systems. Lines of code flashed across his visor as he hacked through the Zayaran security firewalls. Stop him, Relker shouted. Send all soldiers. Protect the towers. Zarin troops rushed through the streets, their armored boots pounding on marble roads. Reed's visor showed the tower's energy levels dropping. He pressed a final command. The tower's shield projector powered down with a loud hum. From space, the massive blue planetary shield that protected Ziora flickered. A small section above the capital city turned dark, creating a clear opening. To the skies. Reed opened a secured channel on his wrist console. His voice was calm as he spoke. Command, this is Reed. Path is clear. Proceed to Phase 2. Above in orbit. Nothing happened for a few silent seconds. Then the space around Ziara rippled like water. From the distortion, dozens of massive human warships appeared. They exited warp with engines glowing bright orange. Their dark gray holes shining under the planet's red sun. Inside the human Fleet flagship Admiral Vance stood on the command deck, looking down at the planet. His eyes were hard and focused. Deploy landing forces. Begin orbital bombardment on enemy defenses. He ordered thousands of drop pods launched from the warships, entering Zira's atmosphere like blazing meteors. Plasma cannons on the ships fired precise shots at Zira and anti-air batteries, destroying them before they could. Captain Reed stood in front of the deactivated western shield tower. His visor showed hundreds of red dots moving quickly towards his position. Zaren's soldiers were closing in from every street and tunnel. Their orders were simple: kill the human before he disables the next tower. High Warden Relcor's voice echoed from speakers across the plaza. You are brave, human, but your bravery ends now. You will die here. Reed did not reply. He checked his ammo count and energy levels on his wrist console. He only had 2 EMP charges left. His rifle was fully loaded, and his plasma blade was charged. He took a deep breath, feeling his chest rise and fall inside his armor. His heart beat steadily, strong and calm. The first wave of Zaren's soldiers appeared from the east.
Ow.
Their scaled bodies were covered in dark silver armor. They held long energy rifles glowing green. Without warning, they opened fire, bright green. Plasma bolts flew towards Reed in a deadly storm, but Reed moved with trained precision. He rolled sideways, using a fallen mech's leg as cover. His rifle burst out short blue shots, each one hitting an enemy soldier in the chest or head. He moved low, fast, and silent, like a shadow with deadly purpose. 2 soldiers rushed him with energy blades. Reed activated his plasma blade, a bright blue sword extending from his wrist device. He blocked the first strike with his armored forearm and sliced the attacker across the chest. The second soldier stabbed forward, but Reed twisted aside and cut him down with a clean strike. His visor flashed, multiple targets approaching. West Tower compromised if delayed further. He grabbed a grenade from his belt and threw it over his cover. It exploded in a silent flash, releasing an electric shockwave that knocked down the next wave of soldiers. Reed sprinted towards the second shield tower. The marble ground shook as Zaren tanks rolled into the plaza, their cannons locking onto him. Reed dove behind a broken pillar just as plasma blasts struck the ground, sending hot shards flying above him. The sky burned bright orange. Human drop pods broke through the atmosphere, their metal shells glowing with heat. They landed across the city, opening with loud hydraulic hisses. Human marines in heavy armor stormed out, rifles ready, forming tactical lines as they advanced. General. Zeltra watched from the palace balcony, her golden eyes wide with disbelief. How? How are humans so fast? How can one soldier cause this much damage? High Warden Relker slammed his fist onto the command table. Focus all tanks on the human. Destroy him now. Captain Reed rolled behind a fallen statue as the Zaren tanks fired again. The blasts shattered marble pillars around him, sending dust clouds into the burning sky. His visor displayed multiple alerts: shields at 35% ammo, low EMP charges, 1 remaining. He breathed calmly, ignoring the noise. The pain in his leg where plasma had grazed him, and the fear he refused to acknowledge. His mission was not yet complete. Above him, human dropships flew low, dropping Marines onto rooftops and streets. Explosions echoed across the city as human forces clashed with Zaren soldiers. The Zaren Empire had never faced an enemy that moved this fast and struck with such ruthless precision. Reed checked his wrist console.
Ow.
The final shield tower was only 400 meters north, beyond a wide-open plaza filled with tanks, mechs, and soldiers forming desperate defenses. His suit AI spoke softly in his helmet. Recommendation: retreat and regroup with landing forces, but Reed shook his head. Negative. Mission priority is shield deactivation. He tightened his grip on his rifle and plasma blade. Activated his last EMP charge, attaching it to a grenade launcher under his rifle. He peeked over the rubble. The tanks were aligning to fire again. He aimed quickly and launched the EMP grenade. It flew in a short arc, landing right between the lead tanks. A bright blue wave burst out, disabling their systems instantly. The tanks' engines died. Their plasma cannons powered off. Soldiers around them froze in shock. Reed jumped from cover and ran forward, firing his rifle at any moving enemy in his path. A group of 5 Zarin elites blocked the tower's entrance. They wore heavy black armor with energy shields covering their bodies. Their leader stepped forward, raising his twin plasma blades. "Your mission ends here, human," he hissed. Red activated his own plasma blade. Blue light shone bright against the red sky. The elites attacked together. Reed blocked the first. Blade strike, twisted aside, and sliced one enemy across the back. Another elite stabbed forward, but Reed ducked and swept his blade across his legs, cutting him down. Ah! The remaining 3 surrounded him. Reed felt a blade cut across his shoulder armor, sending sparks into his visor view. He ignored the pain, spinning his blade in a defensive arc, deflecting another strike before stabbing the enemy through the chest. 2 left. They attacked at the same time. Reed used the dead elite's body as a shield, blocking one attack before kicking the corpse into the other enemy, throwing him off balance. He then slashed sideways, cutting through the last elite's neck. His helmet rolled onto the blood-stained marble floor. Breathing heavily, Reed stepped over the bodies and reached the tower's control panel. His wrist console connected instantly. Lines of code flashed across his visor. His suit II spoke. "Shield deactivation sequence in progress. 20 seconds. Behind him, the final elite rose shakily, blood dripping from his mouth. He raised his blade to stab Reed in the back. But before he could strike, a single blue plasma bolt tore through his head. The elite collapsed silently. Reed turned to see 2 human Marines running up the plaza. One saluted him quickly. "Captain Reed, sir? Marine Unit Delta has landed?" "Orders." Reed nodded, looking back at the panel. "Hold this tower. Defend it until the end." The Marine nodded firmly. "Yes, sir." The panel beeped loudly. The tower powered down with a long hum. Reed looked up into the sky. Across the entire planet, the great blue shield flickered, then disappeared completely. In orbit, Admiral Vance stood on the bridge of the flagship. His crew cheered as radar screens showed the shield collapse. "All ships," Vance ordered calmly, "commence orbital strike." Human warships fired massive plasma beams down onto Zarin fortresses and shipyards. The Empire's proud navy burned under the blue and white fury raining from above. Entire legions of Zarin soldiers dropped their weapons and surrendered to advancing human Marines in the Grand Palace. High Warden Relker watched it all from his throne. His hands shook with rage and fear. Round him, nobles and generals fell, silent, staring in horror at the unstoppable human victory. "How? How could one human do this to us?" whispered General Zeltra, her voice breaking. Relkor's eyes dimmed. He knew the truth in his heart. It was not just one human. It was all of humanity standing behind him. Final sign: Captain Reed stepped out of the tower as human. Marines secured the plaza. Dropships landed nearby, unloading medical teams and engineers. Reed looked around at the ruined city, the burning towers, the fallen mechs. Civilians hid behind broken walls, staring at him with wide, fearful eyes. He removed his helmet slowly. The air smelled of smoke and ash, but also of freedom. A young Zarin child peeked out from behind a stone pillar. Her golden eyes were filled with tears. She looked at Reed, then at the sky, where human ships floated like silent guardians. Reed met her gaze calmly. He did not raise his weapon. He did not shout in victory. He only nodded once before turning away to join his team, because he knew this war was not about power or pride. It was about protecting humanity from tyranny. It was about showing the galaxy what humans would do for their freedom. And so, the legend spread across the stars.